Well, welcome to another episode of Back to Paranormal. I am Brian Mitchell. I'm one of the hosts, and with me is
Marjorie.
And she's the other co-host.
Hi.
And hi. How are you doing today?
I am well. A long day, but well. Thank you.
Well, you're looking fabulous.
Well, thank you.
You're looking wonderful.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing okay. It's kind of a hectic day. We're actually doing this very late. We normally do this, we do this in the evening, but we normally do this around 7 or 8 o'clock. And today we're kind of doing this a little bit later, closer to midnight, the bewitching hour.
Full plates.
So, yeah. So, what are you drinking tonight? You're having...
my go-to.
What is that, like a...
Big Heine.
A big Heineken.
Big Heineken. Crisp.
Crisp, clean,
and
refreshing, and smells like liquid marijuana.
It does.
It kind of does. We don't do any of that stuff, but no, it sometimes when you drink that, it kind of has that.
You're
skunk.
looking around for who is.
Yeah, who's smoking the doobies. Yeah. Anyway, I am having a delicious glass of Labatt's beer, which is Canadian beer. And, Labatt's, if you want to send me a couple of cases of that stuff, I'd be very, very happy. I have a feeling they're not going to.
I wonder, but I don't think.
Maybe not now. Maybe later. Somewhere down the line.
I'll get you a case, honey.
It's okay. Anyway, this is the show where we talk about things that go bump in the night.
Mysteries.
Mysteries and UFOs and stuff like that. But, we're more about the spiritual stuff and ghosts and reincarnation.
Well, actually, we were going to talk about this book that is way over 100 years old about Irish ghost stories. It's been in print for over 100 years.
Oh, were we going to talk about that?
We were going to talk about this book, and I'm looking forward to that. But then
we promised we were going to do it this week. Yeah.
I don't know. Did we promise?
We said
no bueno.
I'm sorry. It's going to be a cliffhanger, folks. We are going to get to it. But Marjorie,
all of our millions of Irish contingents have just thrown up their hands and are storming off.
I've had it
in a kerfuffle.
Yes.
But no, then we had dinner with very lovely friends.
Yes.
Supportive friends.
Yes.
Tony and Nikki.
Yes. DeStefano.
Yes. And Nikki said, you must check out this show. It's on the Discovery Channel or Discovery Plus.
And it's called A Ghost Ate My Baby.
A Ghost Ate My Baby.
No, that's not the name of it.
No.
It's actually a surprising show because she brought it up and it sounded interesting. She was describing some of it. And this totally flew, past the radar.
Well, I think that Nikki had made a very good point. One of the main reasons she suspects is that it has such a horrible title.
Yeah. So what's the name?
The Ghost in My Child.
Is that the name of it? The Ghost Inside My Child.
Sorry. What's with us and not getting the titles of the thing?
I don't know. Once again, we're tag teaming.
Okay. Between the two of us, maybe we'll get it right one day.
Yeah, no, we got it right today. It's The Ghost Inside My Child, which is unfortunate. It's a really unfortunate title. And my guess is that...
a little bit of a stinker.
It's a stinker of a title, but it's not a bad show. It's actually a pretty good show. It's about kids that talk about a past life. And so it's a show about reincarnation. And normally, a lot of these episodes center around a violent death. And then these people come back as kids. And sometimes it's family members, and sometimes it's people from old Hollywood or just regular people who were in the war, or so there we watched believe it or not, we watched a bunch of shows. And what's your take?
They do share that a very common thread is violent or traumatic demise. Another thing that a lot of the cases share, a lot of the mothers say, all the doctors were saying you'd never get pregnant. It's going to be a real big struggle for you. You better start get cracking. And or a violent actual birth, premature. One woman had to give birth by herself on her living room floor because it happened so suddenly.
Yeah.
That she was on the phone with 911 delivering in her own home. And I would surmise that this kind of a situation is it's got to be accompanied with tremendous amount of prayer.
Okay.
I hope and pray.
Right.
For a child, I want a child so badly. And then if it's the case of a traumatic birth, the baby entering the earth,
yes,
entering its life in a traumatizing way,
right.
Whether there's complications in the birth, undoubtedly those are going to be surrounded with prayers, if not by just the mother, but all the family around. Mm-hmm. And they're okay. They have a knowing look. And then suddenly when this is what another thing they share very much in common is 2 years old, mm-hmm. nightmares, night terrors, screaming,
right,
outbursts, sleepwalking without saying things in a different voice that's not their normal voice. And
there's a lot of things like that on the show, like these kids.
A lot of corollary.
Well, there's the one particular show where this girl, she's like 6 years old, and she kind of remembers stuff going back, and she has an affinity for liking silent movies and black and white movies, and she did her hair up like in a little do, which was reminiscent of something from the 20s or 30s, and really bizarre stuff for a kid. I think if a kid is going to be more interested in having some cookies or watching some cartoons or maybe just playing with a friend, having playing with toys and stuff like that, stuff like that, but not have interests in something that goes back 100 years. Mm-hmm. So that's some of these things are pretty impressive. You'll hear of kids that are bright, right? They will be able to spell well, and their tastes tend to go to something that's a little bit more sophisticated at a young age.
Yeah.
And you hear kids that all of a sudden they start playing the piano and they can play the piano really well. So this show kind of touches on those subjects.
Oh, a lot. A lot of the examples of these children who speak of having had a life from before,
right?
With my other dad and my other mom and my other house and
right.
Things like that. A lot of them, they potty trained themselves. They started walking before they were a year old.
Right.
Extensive vocabularies.
There was one interesting one where
an ability to have easy conversation with grown-ups.
Yeah, that's the other thing. But the one I was talking about before, the 6-year-old girl that was, she had this tendency to like these old black and white movies and stuff from years and years ago. You can't even call it nostalgia. It's stuff she didn't really never exposed to, right? And just she just had this interest. She was obsessed with it. And all of a sudden she comes up with this name that, look, I know a lot of movie history. And she brought up the name of a guy named Jack Pickford, who immediately I go to Mary Pickford, because that was, a star back in the 20s, very famous woman that did a lot of sympathetic films, But this guy, Jack Pickford, I didn't know who this person was, and she just had this thing at age 6 for a guy named Jack Pickford. So just really odd stuff. And the parents were not movie buffs or anything like that, So I don't know how she picked this name out, but apparently she claims to be this child actress named Lucille Rickson. And sure enough, they looked it up, and these people really existed. So I just find that really fascinating. And there's a lot of stuff like that on this show. My only problem with the show is that, they have like commercial breaks. But
Yeah.
we watch this on streaming. Of course, this is on the Travel Paranormal channel that,
was it? I thought it was Lifetime.
It was Lifetime. Oh, was it Lifetime?
Yeah, television.
I think you're
for
right.
women.
It was on Lifetime. Okay, so it was on. So once again, a paranormal show on Lifetime. That's okay. That's okay. That's cool. Mm-hmm. All right. But I think this show started like last year. It started in 2023.
Oh.
Right, late 23. So I hope they pick it up again. But we're watching it on streaming, and the only real beef that I think you've had with the show too, some of these episodes, they'll go to that commercial break that doesn't exist on streaming, and then they go to the next segment, and basically they're going back, they're repeating some of the stuff from before to kind of catch you up. And I could see if there was a commercial there, but going from one segment to the other, it's almost like you're rewinding the tape deck, and you're going back and you're listening to another minute.
It's a little maddening, I
Yeah.
will say, to have to listen to the same line over and over. And the thing that, the only thing that kind of kept me intrigued is, I think this is very interesting. There were some of these cases. Okay, I didn't watch the one about the silent film star with you because I was rolling my eyes. It was like, oh, okay. And then they're going to come out with one little boy who says he was Cleopatra, and then I'm not going to listen to this. It's too, she's famous, she was Mae West or whatever in a previous life.
Right. But as you listen,
as I listened, yes, the little idiosyncratic, the quirky details, that were being dispelled as the episode went on. Mm-hmm. But that kind of information and getting to the meat of it is the only thing that held me on through repeating. When my son was 2, he started to say he had a different mommy, over and over.
Yeah, well. But, most of these are like that. Like, there was one particular episode where, the mother is talking to the son, and the son is saying something about my old dad. Do you remember this episode?
Yes. Yeah. Is that the one with, no,
it wasn't.
Riley?
Oh, it might have been Riley,
my old dad.
Yes.
Because his living father was relaxed and fun and loving, and doesn't matter to him that there are children running and screaming around the house and making a mess. But this little boy, in his previous life, was the son of a veteran of World War I who came home with PTSD, and he would say things to his mother saying, my old dad, the house had to be dark. My old dad didn't let us make noise. My old dad was stabbed in the shoulder. He had two different color uniforms. One was green and one was gray, and going on these very specific details that sounded to me like a World War One from the Australia.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's all right. It's all right. When we do this show, we're trying to recall all the stuff that we watched.
A lot of details.
The thing is, the episodes kind of run into each other because it's like you remember certain things, and we made notes, of course, but sometimes some of these things are very similar in the way they kind of play out, right? I think people out there, some people have had these experiences. Have you ever had an experience like that where I don't know, maybe you or maybe, somebody you knew, because I know with me, right?
Yeah.
I remember as a kid, like having dreams about riding in a car, but it was like an old car in old-timey New York. I can't place a year or anything, but it was like an old car, and the scenery around me was much different. And it seemed like New York,
like early 1900s New York, where like
1910s, 1920s,
tall
maybe
buildings were not really.
Yeah, but it was just very concrete, and just a lot of older structures, and and sometimes I wonder about that because it's kind of vague to me, but I would have like repeated dreams about this when I was really young.
That's interesting.
And so I don't know. It could have been something that I was watching on a, because I grew up watching silent movies and black and white old comedies and stuff like that. But this was very.
But you were in
New York.
the vehicle.
I was in the vehicle, yeah.
Watching older New York pass you by.
Yeah, exactly. And so, so was that a past life thing for me? I don't know. But some of these experiences here on this show, they're really specific,
They're very detailed.
Very detailed. And as they kind of, the kids grow a little bit older, for maybe, 4 to 6, 7, 8, they're able to, remember all this other stuff. And then at some point, some of these kids actually just forget about it.
Well, I think at the age of like 6 or 7, they start to their memories of early childhood become more muted. It seems.
You're talking about past childhoods.
Well, I think one thing that I saw a lot, that the memories of early childhood of their current life starts to fade, and along with those of their own personal living memories, then it sort of dispenses with the previous life memories.
Interesting, right?
But if they carry those memories, if those memories are so strong,
right?
Like that case with the young boy James, who was in a past life a World War II pilot.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
He is a beautiful teenager now, and he had his previous life was such a traumatic and violent death that it really traumatized this sweet little kid, and they had to work very hard to figure out who was this person, because it was so intrinsic to this little boy, and they felt he's not going to be capable of living his now life and enjoying his youth and being happy until we get to the bottom of this and have a memorial. And they did all that. I know a young boy who has had previous life memories not as strong as these, and I will go into that, but and for me personally, I have always had this recurring dream, this recurring place that I throughout my life have dreamt of, and it's a a place I've not actually ever been or seen in this life, but I've seen it in my dreams.
Right.
And it's very specific, and I know the lay of the land. And I've been there in winter, spring, summer, fall. It's in the mountains, and there's a trail that goes down, and then you switch back up the side of the mountain. And over all the years of having this recurring dream, two things I can tell you is when I wake up from this place and I know that I have to face the reality, which is the real life in which I live, I am so sad. And well,
I'm sorry.
No, that's not. I'll just let me finish.
Okay.
And there were times growing up when I would have to wake up and I'd have to leave this place, and I don't want to go. And sometimes I would wake up crying because I had to leave. And from what I know, when I was young, when I was really little, I used to try to sleep at night and hope that I would dream of this place. And I know specifically the lay of the land. It's very heavily wooded. It's in the mountains. There's a very deep river gorge with a beautiful river down below. And in that place, I existed with it's a clan or a tribe. It was a very primitive life. There was no house.
Right.
There was sleeping on the ground. And certainly not the life I grew up in or would really dream of, actually.
Right.
And, you grow up a little girl on a big, massive Center Hall Colonial. I don't want to sleep on the sticks. But this place always made me so happy. In this group of people, I don't know whether we were native people, it was primitive, Vikings, I don't know. But all I know is I was happy there and I was loved.
Wow.
And I was so, so loved. And I think it explains a couple things. I know now, actually, I'm looking back, it explains why I am so much happier when I'm in the mountains. I mean, my whole life, Brian, I grew up at sea level. I grew up on East End Avenue. I mean, just a few inches of too much high tide, and
in New York City,
New York City and Manhattan,
right?
And you're in the river, and when I go in the mountains, when I'm in Wyoming, Montana, Switzerland, skiing, Colorado, my whole entire the altitude, I don't know what it is. I'm just so much happier.
Wow.
I'm happier when I am outdoors. I'm a domestic person, so I like home and family and hearth. But I also really love to be out in the elements. And, again, I grew up on the Upper East Side. So,
right.
And I will also say one other thing.
Yes.
Ever since I met you, I have not visited that place in my dreams.
Wow.
Because you're my home.
Ah, thank you. You're my home.
But that's as close as I can get to, because as the years went on, and I would wake up so sad and feeling like I was wrenched out of the bosom of this loving group and this beautiful place with this crystal clear river, and I could navigate it in my dreams like the back of my hand. Then I would come and wake up. I would get very, very sad. That's as close as I can get to thinking that's maybe a past experience that I did not have in this go round.
Right. No, I find that's really interesting.
Yeah.
because I'm still stuck in that car going through, old New York. I didn't have anything like that. Jeez.
Yeah.
Well, somebody brought this up to me about, when we're talking about these particular shows, and I think what were you talking about before? You were talking about I was talking about the Silent Film Star, which was really interesting. That season, there's only one season of the show so far, but that was episode 6 that I watched. And then you were talking about the other one where I guess it was the
The World War II pilot, James.
Yes.
That one, I think, moved me the most. And
that was episode 1. And that was a really great little...
It was super rich.
Yes, it was.
It was super rich.
Yeah.
And they show older footage of this little child as a young boy. And this look on his face, I don't know if it's just me, but every time they show footage of this little boy, he looks wounded.
Oh.
He's looking into the camera
right.
with confusion, and he looks wounded, and he would draw pictures, very, very violent pictures of very detailed Crayola crayon, construction paper drawings of planes at sea being shot down with missiles. And when he was about 2, he started to have these wretched night terrors.
Yikes.
And saying, my plane crash, on fire, little man can't get out. And he would just say it over and over and screaming. And so his father was like, to see this child suffer like this, I started to ask questions. As the father started to ask these questions, like, where was this plane? What kind of plane was it? You were out at the sea. Who shot your plane? And the little boy would say, I flew in a Corsair. I was shot down by Japanese. How do you know it was Japanese? Because of the big red sun. And
things that
he would just not. A 2-year-old doesn't know those things.
Well, just the Corsair.
I didn't know what
I didn't know. Yeah.
And but the father wouldn't believe, and he just kept grilling him.
Well,
and
it was
the mother
funny.
did.
This is funny to me because the father said, "I don't believe in this stuff.
This isn't happening in this house.
This isn't happening in this house." Yeah.
I'm like, well,
and
I got news for you, buddy. It's happening in your house.
It's happening in a lot of houses, and it's it's that kind of closed-mindedness.
Right.
It's like your son is talking about a lot of stuff that he shouldn't know.
Yeah.
And to just put on that show, to say,
I don't believe in that.
I don't believe in that.
Bull roar.
Blah 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 blah.
Well, it's like Dr. Sabum from our previous episode in Afterlife, the movie.
Oh, After Death.
After Death. Oh, for heaven's sake, Brian, when are we going to get it together?
We're never going to get it together on that.
I guess we got our work cut out from us. But
yeah.
He said, skepticism is good, but rigidity is not.
That's right.
And this little boy just gave up all the information that he could. And for his sake, for the child's sake, I'm glad that he was able to stand by what he was saying and remember, because some children can't remember.
Right.
And it must be very frustrating. But they finally got to, and they found the pilot who was killed, also was named James.
Yeah.
And they located
incredible.
It was pretty incredible. Well, it's a common name, but still. And some of these children want to actually change their name because they don't like the name that their living mother gave them. They preferred the name that they had before in some of the instances. But they met the pilot's sister, who was still alive, and the little boy met her and sat with her, and they talked about stuff that he was saying, the things that they did when they were little, and things that no one else would have known. He called her a name. he's meeting this 80-something-year-old woman, and he was calling her by a nickname that only her brother called her by.
Yeah. Pretty interesting, right?
It was very interesting. And then things just didn't seem to get better for this child, James, and they decided to go to the area where a lot of people do have their memorials in the ocean for, this was the Battle of Iwo Jima, which was pretty rough stuff. And they had a little memorial.
Wow. It's pretty neat, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of interesting things. Well, some of the things that I found really interesting in here was one kid said that they died and it was like sudden death, and they rose up out of their body. And they said this to the parents. They said they went up and they met God. And there was another kid on here that said to the mother,
Jessica.
Was that it?
She had also been, her spirit had been killed suddenly in battle.
And was she the one that said, I'm forgetting what God looked like? Really incredible stuff.
Really, really little. She
really
went up crying
stuff.
to her mother and said, I've lost something. And the mother's trying to find out, well, okay, what did we lose? Where did we put it? Thinking it's a thing. And she said, no, I'm beginning to forget what God looks like.
Yeah.
So
pretty amazing.
Really amazing.
Yeah.
Yes, children have imaginations, okay? And that's wonderful. And that's why we love them. The stuff they say, you know, it's endless entertainment. But when things are it really is. Yeah. When things are so specific, and it's something that they're clearly struggling so hard to convey to you.
Well, they're distraught.
Yes.
They're distraught by it.
Well, I had an experience with my nephew that I could tell that he needed to kind of talk through some things.
Try and communicate something to you that he was having a hard time.
Very frustrated.
And I guess it was something along the lines like he knew you from a past life. One thing I noticed about my nephew is this wonderful child. I absolutely think he hung the moon. He was born under very traumatic circumstances. He was brought into the world very prematurely because his sister was dying in the womb. And so they had to she only lived really for like an hour or so. And that's sad.
So we were all praying, and it was really rough. And I went out to where he was in California to care for him while he was in the NICU, and he was this tiny, tiny, tiny little thing in the isolette. And I came and I got all washed up, and they brought me in, and this little boy, he could not control. And he couldn't eat. He was being fed through a tube through his nose.
He couldn't control his eyes.
Could not control his eyes. They usually would just go ping pong all over the room. Wow. And when I got there, he looked up at me and he put his little hands together like a prayer, and he stared into my eyes. And all the NICU nurses and my mother took a picture of it.
Right.
Because she was like, wow, we got to catch this on camera, right?
Right.
And all the nurses were like, he's never looked at anything that long. And he was just staring at me. Yeah.
Did you feel a real connection?
I did. Yeah. I did, but I didn't think it was, what it kind of turned out to be. Right. I just thought, oh, wow, he's interested, maybe because I have green eyes. I don't know. I was trying to think it through. And
okay, everybody, she has green eyes.
And then as well, they're rare. It's different from most people have like brown or
well,
blue.
They're beautiful green eyes, so I could see how you'd be looking at them.
Thank you. Anyway, I don't know what his reason was. I was trying to think of reasons. And then as he grew, like there were times when we'd be just sitting there and he would just start to stare at me for the longest time. And then he would shut his eyes really, really hard, like he was thinking really hard on something, and clench up his face, and he would shake his head because it just looked like he was so frustrated. Yeah. And he would shake it off, you know? And this was for the longest time. And then finally, when he was about 4, it happened, and he was all the way across the living room, and he did it again. So then I said, you know something? I think the next time this happens, I'm just going to ask very open, vague questions, because I can see that something's getting to him. And we were playing in the garden, and it happened, and I sat down on the bench next to him, and I said, you know, sometimes when you look at me, you get very frustrated, and I'm just trying to understand why it's upsetting you. Or
how old was he at this
point? Just around 4.
Okay. All right. So.
And he said, I get frustrated because I know I knew you from before, but I can't remember how or when. And I said, yeah, you know, a lot of people, you know, kind of feel that way sometimes. And then I said, was I your friend? And he said, I think you were my friend, and I loved you. And he said, even when I was a little baby, I knew you from before.
Wow.
But then he paused, and he shut his eyes tight again, like he always would when dealing with this subject matter. And then he said, no, even when I was just a little baby, I knew I had known you from before I was a little baby.
Wow. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy stuff.
And, you know, I was very eager I just want him to have a happy little life, you know, and I love him. And so I just gave him a hug, and I just said, it's okay. You don't have to remember everything all the time. Right. You know, just know that, you know, I love you, and you're my angel.
Well, you're my angel. I want to say this because when I was younger, I didn't want to believe in reincarnation. I just wanted to think that, you know, we come here, we do our thing, and then we, you know, and then there's an end to that, and then we go to be with God, you know, and that's basically the way I've looked at it. And every time I'd hear reincarnation, it's like, I don't want to come back and do this all over again, you know. I just want to, you know, have a good life, and then, you know, kind of move on, you know. But when I hear these stories, there are people that believe that we're reincarnated many, many times because we're here to learn something.
That's the first exposure when I was like a teenager, and we were learning about other religions that weren't Christian. Yeah. And I read about how Buddhists believe in, now, even though I always had that recurring dream of that place and that family or whatever they were, I couldn't put my finger on what it was. And then I read about Buddhism, and then, you know, they're like, you could come back as an ant. And I'd be like, no, thanks. But, you know, if it is, it is. But I can't stop it.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I wonder if anybody's come back, you know, they were a dog before and then they come back, or maybe they reincarnated as a dog or something. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't have the answers.
I don't either.
I don't blame some people for not wanting to believe in it for those reasons. You want to go up to the pearlies. You want to be with your loved ones.
You want to be with your loved ones, and you want to, you know, go on to something that's much better than this world. Although there's wonderful things in this world. You know, there are people that believe that this is just a mirror of heaven, but people choose not to make it that way, you know. And I don't know if that's society or, you know, that we don't do that. If everybody was nice to everybody, if everybody was, you know, cool, like you driving and you're courteous and stuff like that, it would be more like heaven. It would be enjoyable. But unfortunately, some people are not like that, and kind of brings everybody else down. I try to keep it positive, though.
You do.
But it's hard. It's hard sometimes. This world is a lot of bad things go on. There's a lot of hate right now. And, you know, there's a lot of hate on Facebook and other places. And there are people spouting hate. And I just, you know, I don't subscribe to that. No. I try not to.
Stay away from it.
But I think if everybody did something nice every day for somebody else, I think it would be a far better world. And maybe we wouldn't have to reincarnate, you know.
Well, you can show people love even if you don't have a complete understanding of them, which is why I honestly I like this show, because it is such a hateful world, you know, and a parent who's trying to help their child figure all this stuff out.
Right.
You know, why are you so scared of lightning? You know, why do you always want to talk in an English accent? Yeah, ever since you could talk, you know.
Are we talking about Johnny Depp? I don't
He's been reincarnated many times in his one earthly life. But you know that the people don't want to, you know, talk about how their daughter is always talking about the Oklahoma City bombing, that she was in the children's wing when that all went down, and you know, other things that I think a show like this can be very helpful for parents who are trying to just help their child, because it is when you come clean and when you say things like this, like I was a silent film actress in a previous life. I mean, good luck on the playground, you know, and a lot of these children did face bullying.
Right. Is there any help for that type of thing? Because, you know, I think about, you know, I'm sure it's not, you know, to have your kid on a show like this or talk about your kid, it's kind of exposing a lot to the world, right?
It is. It's a lot.
And I don't know if that's the right thing to do. I mean, I'm glad they're doing it for the show, because the show is very interesting.
There is. I did look this up because I do think it's important for parents to know. There is a gentleman. His name is Dr. Jim Tucker, and he works at the University of Virginia.
Right.
He does have. He's studied over 2,500 cases of children who struggle with this.
Did he write a book on this?
He did. He did write a book.
It sounds like I know this information that's coming. I don't. I'm asking these questions.
No. Yeah. Because when I realized that this was the episode we were going to do instead of the Irish ghosts, I said I would want to try and find a good way to help parents help their little ones, because you know, I think it's gotta be a struggle.
We get all kinds of people listening to this show.
So if you have if you have a child who struggles with this, send emails with who are there talking spontaneously about memories that seem to be related to a previous life. Everything will be confidential. Again, this is the University of Virginia.
Right.
Jim Tucker. Send your emails to Diane Morini, Morini, at dsm3j@virginia.edu, and they will help you. Their team of scientists who will help you. Right. A young boy was on the Today Show. Because of the help that Dr. Tucker gave him in his struggles.
So it's no electrotherapy, no,
and they strongly recommend, don't dismiss this as mental illness. So most of the cases, the child is not mentally ill.
Right.
Just ask very non-judgmental, open questions. Get as much information as you can, and write an email to that person. And
then write a book about
this young man named Ryan was really, really struggling, and his mother found this doctor, and they really helped him. And then he wrote the book Return to Life.
Return to Life.
Return to Life. Yeah. Wow. If this is of interest to you.
It sounds like a good guest for the show somewhere down the line.
I'd love to talk to him. I mean, 2,600 cases of, and the statistics amongst those cases, Brian, 70% of them violent death.
Yeah.
And 73% of those, just to go take it a step further and to talk about society, 73% of those violent deaths were all male.
Wow.
Yeah. The individuals, the children who inherited the previous soul, could be boy, girl, whatever, any of the above.
That's really interesting.
But if you need help there, it looks from what I read, and I read a lot about it, this person is very helpful.
Right. Well, I really like this show, and we watched a bunch of episodes, like I said before. We didn't get through all the episodes, but we wanted to kind of sample it and see where it was going and see if it was really worth watching. It seems like the content is pretty good in it.
It's fascinating.
It is very fascinating.
It's fascinating.
Fascinating. It's a wonderful little show, and if you can get past the title, "The Ghost Inside My Child," it's a show about kids that are reincarnated.
And also a lot of the children, I think, while it's disturbing, initially, one of the nice, the uplifting feature of the show is that a lot of these children just end up looking at it like, Lucille, the silent film star, did not have a very happy life of her short 14 years on Earth, and I am have given the gift of life with a loving parent where I can
supportive.
I can actually live out the joys that this poor Lucille didn't get to have. And the little boy who grew up with the World War II soldier as his father, basically, that's his way of looking at it. Like, I need to live a good life. So
I want to talk about one particular episode, which I thought was pretty cool. And it was episode 11. And it was
Hanny, a.k.a. Trenny.
Yeah, it's actually the woman's name is, I think, Trenny was her name, and her son's name is Noah. And so what happened was, one day in the car, he called her a name Hanny.
Well, he was a little boy who had an egregious speech impediment.
Yeah.
And understanding anything that this child had to say, you took a couple cracks at it.
Right.
And he was blabbing on and on in the back of the car, and the mother was trying to drive, so she was just tuning it out.
Right.
And all of a sudden, in the most articulate, strong, loud voice, he said, "God damn it, Hanny, listen to me."
Yeah. And what was interesting about that was Hanny was the name of her, basically a nickname for Trenny, that's her name, that her brother used to call her, who had predeceased, I guess, well, not predeceased, he passed away from a car accident maybe 6 years before this boy was born. And they never, ever talked about him. And so when all of a sudden he came out and he called her Hanny, it was like the only one person called her that, and that was her late brother. And so there were more.
Craig,
yes. And there were more and more things that came up and up and up, which led them to believe that Noah was basically reincarnated from her brother. and really fantastic stuff. And I don't, sometimes I want to believe everything. I want to believe everything that's presented, but sometimes with these things, you're going by the trust of the people that are on the show. You're trusting them to deliver this information, correctly. And I believe a lot of the people that are on the show. There are some people that are not as believable to me.
I'm sorry, but I do agree with that. Some of the people I question, a small handful, but yeah, I question them.
Yeah, and some of the things aren't as specific. It's kind of like, my son likes fedoras, and like I said, okay, maybe he is an old soul, that was reincarnated into this body, but. There are some kids that are just bright. They're bright and, and so they might prefer something over another. And he might have seen a cartoon with a fedora. There's a Disney cartoon like that, where it's a bunch of hats and they talk and stuff, but it's like a fedora hat. And then you got these women, all these fancy hats from the 40s and 50s. And so...
A child would take a shine to them or whatever.
Yeah,
but
I don't know.
This little child, Noah, he had a sleepover at his grandmother's house. And she said, I was tucking him in, and he said, Nana, I want Froggy. And he had never seen Froggy because Froggy was stored away in a small box of the few things that this mother had kept of her child who died so young. And she said, well, what color is Froggy? And he said, yellow.
Yeah, you would think it would be green, right?
Right.
Because it's Froggy,
yeah.
Right? Frog. And
stored away in a box in a closet.
Yeah, she still had it.
And she still had it. And his face just lit up when she
Froggy
brought it to him.
Yeah, really. No, I think... I think because it was the mother and the grandmother who was the mother of
someone there to corroborate
of
all
Craig.
Of these little things. Yeah.
No, stuff like that. I believe. I do believe in general, but sometimes people want to get on a show and just to get on a show and get paid. Maybe I don't know. I'm not saying that that's happening here, but I'm always.
There was one mother on there that really gave me the creeps.
She creeped you out, huh?
I was just like, could we get through this, please?
Yeah, we won't mention that one. I think they had a couple of them on there, but look, I don't judge anybody by their looks. I try not to. But
it wasn't. I don't judge people by their looks.
Oh, good. Yeah, but you said she was creepy, so you didn't want to watch her.
Sometimes judge people.
Yeah. Okay.
No, it was the way that she was talking and the way that she was presenting
her demeanor,
the information, and her demeanor, and just this really far away look in her eye. It's like, okay, please.
Well, yeah. Sometimes you get that.
It's okay. I mean, hey, look, different strokes for different folks. Okay.
Wasn't that a TV show? At least part of that title. Anyway, well, look, I really like the show.
I like the show too.
And aside from the, and it didn't happen in every show because sometimes these things feature 3 different things. I guess if the information isn't there, they'll do like 3 people. It's about an hour-long show. I mean, if you watch it on streaming, it's about 40 minutes. But we watched a couple of episodes that it was just 2 people. It was 2 families with their son or daughter or whatever, and as long as they didn't go back, every time they went to another segment, and then it's almost like they put the rewind on for a minute, and then present it again, and then go forward, and then they go back again later on, and then forward, and
I mean, you can get some ironing done, and
when that happens,
you're not really missing,
when that happens, go and get a bag of potato chips or something, and just listen to it, and then when they present the new stuff, just sit down and watch it. But I believe a lot of it. I think it's a great show. The Ghost Inside My Child. And you can see it on streaming for Discovery Plus, and hopefully they bring it back. Hopefully they find
for a second season.
Yeah, I think there were about, I don't know if it was 16 or 18 episodes. Maybe I should have noted that for the.
It was quite a lot.
It was a lot, yeah. So, I hope they bring it back and they do some more, because I think it's...
I think it was interesting. I'll keep it in our repertoire.
It is it's a fascinating one. And thank you, Nikki, for bringing that to our attention.
Yes, Miss Nikki.
So that we could put off the Irish ghost stories for another 10 weeks.
Sorry, guys.
Sorry, guys. I know you're looking forward to that one, but we're getting to it. So,
and if you have, we would love to hear about if any of you out there have had experiences with this, with the sense of having had a past life or having been reincarnated.
Yeah.
Email us. Let us know.
It's
Drop a note.
Back to Para at cartoonerific.com. There is a feature now. You don't have to do that. There is a chat feature now.
Oh.
That you can
We have a chat feature?
There's a chat feature that it's kind of a brand new thing through the service that we have. But if you go to the show, whatever service it is, it will say somewhere on there about a chat feature, and you can click that on and you can basically send us a little message about what you like about the show. If you have an experience that you'd like to talk about, it doesn't have to be limited to this. It could be anything. Anything.
Slippers in the middle of the hallway for no reason.
Yeah, you floated above your bed and you have no idea what happened. I don't, whatever.
Yeah, anything.
Anything that
We're
you have.
open. It's all a possibility.
But if you want to send us an email too, that's always a possibility too. So back to Para at Cartoonerific, CartoonErific.com. And we'll get it one way or the other.
We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, and even if you just want to make a comment like, hey, Brian, you sound pretty good on the old podcast there.
You do.
Yeah.
You do.
But most likely it's going to be about Marjorie on the podcast and her sexy voice that everybody is saying wonderful things about.
Right.
I had, well, he's a friend, but I should say I had a friend, because ever since he said this, but he no, he said...
He's a very good friend.
He said, that Marjorie is really, really super. And I love her voice and all that. And
thank you, friend.
Yeah, and basically he was implying that maybe I should take a powder. That's an old expression.
I don't even... What?
Take a powder, like take a hike.
Well, wait. Okay.
No, to me. To,
take a
long walk off a short pier. And thank you, buddy. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. You really made me feel good. So, but no, Marjorie is, she does have a wonderful speaking voice, and I love her, and she's so beautiful, and okay, I'm going to stop now.
I love you too.
I love you too. Anyway, so what are we doing next week? We're going to do...
I'm scared.
We're going to...
We will see you again next week.
We'll see you again next week, and I believe it's
Please join us.
I think it's going to be the Irish ghost stories next week. I think we have to, because I feel like it's been a big switch and bait, or bait and switch on these people.
I feel that we've done it too many times.
Yeah, we've done it too many times. So
honestly, I blame myself. It's not that I have no interest in Irish ghost stories. I absolutely do. It's just then other suggestions keep coming up, and then I'm like, and I apologize for that.
And then we follow that.
Blame Marjorie.
Yeah.
Please join us next time.
Join us next time. How is that beer going?
Oh, it's delicious.
My beer is pretty good too, I have to say. Anyway, okay, so anyway, we will see you next time. Just like Marjorie said.
When we get back to paranormal.
Back to paranormal. Good night, everybody.
Good night.